There is so much misinformation surrounding nutrition, especially now with internet, social media. The misinformation of nutrition is rampant. We must improve food literacy. It's essential for our health. It's essential for our well-being. It's essential for sustainability of communities because food education empowers individuals to make informed choices. Eating clean doesn't necessarily mean eating bland. You're allowed to enjoy your food, experience taste, texture, flavor. Teaching families about mindful eating is how we can create a healthier relationship with food as a family. We have to encourage families to engage in conversations around meals whilst they're eating their food, acknowledging the flavors, the textures, and just being in a state of gratitude. Food education should also emphasize practical skills, cooking skills, budgeting techniques. Engaging families in food education is crucial for creating a culture of health and well-being because knowledge about nutrition and cooking together is how we can foster intergenerational learning where parents and children can collaborate, they can work together, sharing recipes and talking about the importance of healthy eating. We have to see food as an opportunity. Welcome to the Diet Doctor podcast, where we discuss the science of nutrition and high performance, offering practical tools for everyday life. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of the Diet Doctor podcast. And today I want to delve into a crucial topic that affects not only our individual health, but also the health of our communities as a whole, and that is food education. And we are in an age where nutritious eating is sometimes overwhelming. That's some feedback that I get from many of my clients that, we're overwhelmed. There's misinformation, there's conflicting dietary advice. And how do we empower ourselves and others, our families and our loved ones, with accurate food education, because it's becoming more important than ever because of the degenerative diseases of the brain and the body that we are suffering from, to be able to navigate food. And food education is the foundation for making informed decisions about what we eat as an individual, as families, etc. And it allows us as individuals to grasp the significance of food choices and understand nutritional labels, which are becoming ever so difficult to read, and recognize the long-term health impacts of their diets. Food education can transform our relationship completely with food. And we have a terrible relationship with food. It's quite toxic. Food is either a form of a reward or a form of punishment, when it should be an opportunity for nourishment, an opportunity for pleasure, and an opportunity for us to connect with ourselves. And what I want to do in this episode is explore the various dimensions of food education and what that means. What does food education even mean? Because it's important for our health, its impact on society as a whole, and what are practical ways that we can implement to enhance our food literacy. And we're not just politically illiterate, we are in an age where we are food illiterate. So we have to understand the benefits of whole foods in order to recognize the implications of the processed stuff in the ingredients of food. So if you look at labels, especially these days, it's very difficult because they're filled with jargon and words that are often not used on a day-to-day basis. So not just children, but adults find it very difficult to empower themselves when it comes to food education because we don't even understand what we are consuming. And to fully grasp the importance of food education, we have to first define what it means. So what does it encompass? And food education is a comprehensive approach that integrates multiple disciplines, including nutrition science, skills in the kitchen, so culinary skills, food policies, sustainability, and many other facets. And we have to aim to teach ourselves about these various aspects of food and nutrition. We need to look at the basics of understanding nutrition. What are macronutrients? So what are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats? And what's the difference between macronutrient and a micronutrient? And micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals. And what are their roles? What are the critical roles that they play in maintaining our overall health and well-being? And then when you have this sort of knowledge, it helps us make informed choices and allows us to navigate food to support our overall well-being, not just our physical well-being in the way we look. And we tend to do this in summer more often than other seasons. And it's not about that. We have to apply 100% to everything. First of all, food labels. Learning how to read and interpret food labels is an art within itself. You have to focus on serving sizes, the ingredients list, nutritional information. You have to know how to decipher food labels because it's essential for understanding what you are consuming in order to make a healthier choice. You have to understand what you're reading before you make a healthier choice. And if you look at portion sizes, a lot of the time portion sizes are not transparent when it comes to packaging. Food preparation, you have to develop skills in the kitchen that empower you to cook healthy meals at home. And cooking is a valuable skill that enables you to prepare nutritious food, control what goes into your food so you've got complete control over the ingredients. And you can also use a bit of creativity in the kitchen. You know, I own a meal prep company, but that doesn't mean that I just condone that. I want people to learn how to make their own food. There are cultural aspects to food. And when you intertwine health with culture, traditions, and all the rest of it, it can get a little bit difficult and overwhelming. And there's a cultural significance when it comes to food in order to appreciate the different practices that people use in the kitchen and the different ingredients that people use. Then you have sustainability, which is understanding the environmental impact of our food choices and learning to practice sustainable eating habits such as supporting local agriculture, reducing food waste, and understanding food systems. We at our meal company, we make sure that we only order the amount of food that we need for set meals after the cutoff time so that we don't waste food. Australians waste 2/3 of what we purchase, which is horrible. And so food education as a whole cultivates awareness around food sourcing, production and processes, and the nutritional value of the food. So if you embrace a holistic view of food, you as an individual can make decisions that are aligned with your personal values, your personal health goals, as well as contribute to the well-being of your family unit and hence as of the community as a whole. And then by default, you'll be addressing the problems of the entire planet, one step at a time. And why does this stuff matter? It's crucial that we have food education for an array of different reasons, particularly concerning public health, individual well-being, and community health as well. Different communities, you'll notice, are more susceptible to diseases because of the way that they eat. And until we improve public health, and food literacy, we are never going to be able to make better dietary choices. And as a consequence, the health outcomes are going to be a disaster. So when the individual is educated about nutrition, they're more likely to make informed and healthier choices, such as consuming more fruits and vegetables, things that people shy away from a lot these days. Whole grains, everyone's scared of carbohydrates like they're so evil. And we have to emphasize lean proteins and reduce the intake of processed foods, added sugar, unhealthy fats. For example, if you look at the research in the journals of preventative medicine, you'll find that people who received dietary education showed a significant increase in the consumption of fruits and vegetables. So the more educated they became, the less scared they became to consume fruits and vegetables, because people are scared of fruits, especially because of the sugar content. But they have so many more other aspects that are more beneficial than they are detrimental. And as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease is on the rise globally, addressing these issues via food education programs and empowering individuals to make healthier choices is the best way to reduce the prevalence of these health concerns, not just at an individual level, but at a population level. We have to try and change our relationship with food. We have a very negative relationship with food, and that's because of the lack of understanding. Everyone's following an eating ideology rather than trying to understand food as a whole. And until we do that, you're not going to foster a positive relationship with food. In a society filled with restrictive diets and negative messaging surrounding food, it's essential to cultivate a mindset of balance, moderation, and the only way to do that is via education, because education promotes the understanding that food is not just about nutrition. It is also a source of enjoyment. We are allowed to enjoy our food. It is a source of cultural identity. It is a source of community connection. There are many facets to food other than just food for fun. Food is primarily for function, but it also serves all these other purposes. And when you're teaching individuals and families to appreciate flavor, texture, and certain rituals associated with food, it encourages mindful eating practices. And mindful eating allows people to slow down and connect with their meals, to appreciate the blessing that is in front of you. And that transforms the way we eat from a rushed event into an opportunity for self-care and gratitude. We not only don't sit down when we eat, we are walking when we eat, which is a disaster for our gastrointestinal health. It's an absolute disaster. If you look at the ritual of preparing a family meal together, for instance, this not only promotes bonding as a family unit, but also allows the people in the family, the members of the family, to choose ingredients that are actually good for you, that are nourishing, and to talk about their day, put the phones down, appreciate the food that they are sharing. And these experiences create lifelong memories that are then tied subconsciously to positive food practices. And that is how you address the cause of the issue, not just the symptoms. And as global food demand continues to grow and the population is growing, we have to understand the environmental sustainability of our food choices and how it becomes disastrous for the population and for the planet if we don't understand food education. Because food education promotes awareness of how our choices also impact our health, but also the planet. And by educating individuals about sustainable practices, we can guide them to make choices that not only nourish their bodies, but also contribute to environmental sustainability. We have to think about the planet, not just while we're living on it, but also for future generations. And that is a heavy emphasis on that. There's a heavy emphasis on that in Islam. We are khulafa, nastakhlifukum fil ard. So we are responsible for the planet and how we look after it. And things that you can do, basic things that you can do, like choosing seasonal produce and source foods that are seasonal to support local farmers, reduce the carbon footprint associated with food transportation, and prioritize produce that is fresher and more nutrient dense over the processed packaged food. Awareness of issues like food waste is also essential. We waste a tremendous amount of food, especially in Australia. Statistics reveal that approximately 1/3 of all food produced globally is wasted, approximately 2/3 in Australia, but globally, 1/3. That's a lot of wastage of food. That's tons and tons of food. And food education can teach individuals about meal planning, storage techniques so you don't waste food that you don't consume straight away, and creative uses for leftover ingredients so that you can make dishes from whatever's left over in your fridge before it expires. And this is how you minimize waste. It is techniques like this and education like this that goes a long way, far beyond the household, into the community, and has a ripple effect on the planet as a whole. Despite the importance of food education, there are several systemic challenges that hinder the effectiveness and accessibility. You've got limited access to education. It doesn't exist in the curriculum. We are working on it, but it's a slow process that hopefully we can get over the line soon. And access to food education is not uniform across different demographics, depending on socioeconomic status, geographic location, cultural factors. All these things can significantly influence a person's access to quality food education. In many areas, especially and particularly low-income communities, resources such as cooking classes, nutrition workshops. I do nutrition workshops, but they're not accessible to everybody. And we're trying to change that, because this is what allows for people to emphasize fresh produce in areas where fresh produce is severely limited. For example, if you look at community centers in low-income neighborhoods, they lack the funding to offer cooking programs or nutrition education, which leaves the residents of these communities without essential knowledge and skills. And the result then becomes a cycle of poor dietary choices and health disparities, and just has an ongoing effect. And in these cases, it becomes imperative for community organizations, for policymakers to advocate for equitable access to food education resources. It shouldn't be a situation where The private schools get nutrition seminars, but the public schools don't. Or smaller businesses don't get access, but the big corporations do. And there's a lot of misinformation surrounding nutrition, especially in the age of the internet, social media. Misinformation about nutrition is rampant. I see some of the things on social media, and I'm still completely gobsmacked. Just when I think I can't be further surprised, there's a bombardment of conflicting information about diets, supplements, food products, workout trends. Even training is hard to navigate these days. Now you've got functional training is trending, or should I do high intensity interval training? Should I do low intensity steady state training? And this barrage can lead to confusion and distrust, and it makes it difficult for individuals to be able to discern reliable sources of information from misinformation. You've got social media influencers, I call them influenza instead of influencer, by the way, promoting fad diets with no scientific backing, and that is one of the main sources of misinformation. For instance, you've got some trendy diets that will gain popularity, and they'll be propagating unrealistic expectations about food and the body image that is linked to that particular eating ideology. So if you eat this way, this is how you're going to look, that couldn't be further from the truth. Food education should focus on promoting critical thinking skills, allowing the individual to evaluate sources of information and consider the science behind the nutrition. And ultimately, when you have that sort of these tools, you'll be able to make informed decisions based on evidence, not based on what is trending on TikTok, for instance. There will be some institutional barriers because many of the current educational systems lack comprehensive food education programs. So being able to navigate this space is going to be difficult because traditional academic subjects often take precedence, which leaves little to no room for teaching essential life skills related to nutrition and cooking. The utilitarian skills like maths and English takes precedence in the education system. And this oversight limits opportunities for young people to develop the knowledge and skills they need to practice healthier eating. We need innovative solutions in order to bridge or address this gap of information that exists, especially at a young age. And schools need to integrate food education into the health curricula, into the PDHPE classroom, and promote after-school cooking classes, for instance, or partner with local chefs, lead workshops, and focus on practical culinary skills, which not just children don't have, even adults these days don't have these basic skills. There are farm-to-school programs in some schools that can connect students with local farms and provide them with first-hand experiences about growing and preparing food. Some of the private schools do this very well. I know the school that my son goes to has an emphasis on this. They grow their own crops. They've got farm animals on the land to sort of create that link to and address this missing piece of information that is linked to having a sustainable approach to food and food education. And these strategies not only enhance food education, but they also improve accessibility for everyone. And unless we integrate food education into schools, we're not going to be able to fix this problem. So we need to promote food literacy from a young age. And food literacy is something that is not even discussed. And schools don't incorporate food education into the curriculum whatsoever. There are some schools, like the one that I'm consulting for now, Unity Grammar, which is doing a great job. They're doing nutrition classes. Some schools have gardening activities and hands-on cooking lessons. For example, a school might implement a weekly cooking club where students could learn about different cuisines from different cultures and build practical cooking skills. We need to be able to cook our own food. It's okay to purchase your food, but you're going to be put in a situation where sometimes you have to do it yourself and you need to know what to do. So integrating farm to school programs can provide students with lessons about not just sourcing food, but using seasonal produce, so seasonal eating, and the importance of local agriculture and supporting the local, economy. And research shows that when children participate in food-related activities, such as planting and harvesting vegetables, they're more likely to try those foods and develop healthier eating habits. A child will try a vegetable that they've grown themselves My son would have, when he was younger especially, would have smoothies with me, especially if he participated in making that smoothie with me, versus me making it on my own and saying, here, have a sip of this. He'll, it would be rejected 9 times out of 10. And community organizations, local governments, they also play a pivotal role in providing food education outside of the traditional school setting. So we need initiatives like community cooking classes. I've been involved in some, but they're all on a small scale. We need them on the larger scale. We need nutrition workshops. Farmers markets can engage diverse demographics, allowing people to learn about healthy eating and cooking in a supportive environment. And cooking workshops in particular, if you get local chefs to lead these workshops and they are focusing on healthy recipes, not just taste and texture, but also and flavor, but also healthy recipes, healthy ingredients, this will equip the community with skills that they need to prepare meals from scratch. And this will improve both knowledge and confidence in the kitchen. Community gardens are an excellent educational space where individuals can grow their own food and learn about sustainable practices. We appreciate the process. We appreciate the food if we see it. If we plant the seed and then grow the vegetable or grow the fruit, we appreciate that food source differently. We look at it differently when we hold it in our hand and when we consume it. There's a different connection. And leveraging technology, especially on social media, is an increasingly, because it's a digital world these days, and technology has been leveraged as a powerful tool for disseminating food education or misinformation. You've got online platforms, apps, and these can provide cooking tutorials, nutrition information, meal planning resources, food tracking tools that encourage healthier eating habits, but often they're a source of misinformation and angst and anxiety instead. For instance, platforms such as YouTube, filled with cooking channels that focus on healthy recipes, but also rubbish recipes at the same time. So you have to know how to navigate that space, and there's a time and place for everything. You've got nutrition apps that can help you track your food intake, monitor your nutrient consumption, and they're also a valuable educational resource. But they can also put you in a state of angst because you start entering hypotheticals that you're not even consuming. So it's important to have someone coach you in that space. And social media is a great place for raising awareness about food and sustainability and food waste, and educational posts about food that that are engaging and inspire you. But again, you have to be educated to be able to navigate that space. Otherwise, it's just going to be a further source of angst and anxiety. Do I follow the carnivore diet? Do I follow a plant-based diet? Because they're both claiming to be anti-inflammatory diets. So getting somebody, a professional, to help you, especially in the beginning, is imperative. We need to collaborate with healthcare providers as well, integrate food education into the healthcare setting as a whole, and promote awareness about nutrition. And then we can empower the individual to make healthier choices. And this is what is really, really valuable. If we are really advocating for food education, we need to partner with as many entities as we can. Because when the patient visits the doctor or the healthcare professional for a routine checkup, they should also have access to nutritional resources that not just aim to address the issue that popped up in the recent blood test, but also preventative measures, not just addressing issues after they become an issue. And healthcare practitioners especially can provide educational materials on healthy eating, meal planning, cooking tips, workshops led by registered dietitians or nutrition. You don't have to be a nutritionist. You don't have to go visit a nutritionist to get nutrition knowledge. We should be able to access this information by visiting your local physiotherapist. We should be able to access some sort of nutritional knowledge every time we visit any type of health professional, because society is rampant with diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and all these other horrible things. So when we partner with local healthcare providers and then they partner with local farms or community organizations to provide fresh produce to patients, you're reinforcing the connection between nutrition and the health outcome that we are looking for. For instance, produce prescriptions can be implemented where healthcare providers prescribe fruits and vegetables rather than prescribing medication, which links the patient with local farmers markets or the local organic produce, local organic grocery store, or even community-supported agricultural programs, which are known as CSA programs. Because agriculture and culture in general plays a large role in food education. Cultural influence on food is massive, and it plays a significant role in shaping our food choices and our preferences, and understanding these cultural influences on food can enhance the effectiveness of food education efforts. Rather than shying away from culinary traditions, we should celebrate them. Culinary traditions are deeply rooted in culture, history, and community practices. And only by recognizing and honoring diverse food traditions can food education foster an appreciation for different flavors and ingredients associated with different cultures. Eating clean doesn't necessarily mean eating bland. You're allowed to enjoy your food experience, taste, texture, flavor. In the past, we used to feel like if it tasted good, it was bad for you. And we have to highlight the benefits of some traditional foods and motivate individuals to reconnect with their heritage while making healthier choices, because it's about the ingredients as well. For example, the Mediterranean diet emphasizes whole grains, legumes, nuts, fruits, vegetables, which are great for health. But if you're getting your ingredients from, that are all processed, are you really following a Mediterranean diet, or are you following a pseudo-Mediterranean diet? It appears to be a Mediterranean dish, but really all the ingredients on there are poor quality, and hence it's not. The diet on Mediterranean research, the Mediterranean diet, is based on whole food ingredients. It's about the history of the Mediterranean diet. It's about the preparation methods. It's about the health benefits of these traditional dishes made with whole food ingredients that are organic, not rubbish ingredients making a Mediterranean dish, if you understand where I'm coming from. And when we bridge these gaps between the generations as well, we are able to acquire what's called culinary knowledge for the younger generations. And that way you can preserve cultural heritage while addressing these health issues that we are currently facing with this modern day crisis. Food education must also address the realities of what we call food insecurity, which disproportionately affects marginalized communities. And understanding the barriers individuals face when accessing nutritious foods can inform education strategies that are compassionate and practical, and programs aimed at improving access to fresh produce through community gardens, local food banks, and partnerships with agricultural organizations can help alleviate food insecurity while providing education on nutrition and cooking skills. For example, food co-ops and community-supported agricultural, which are called CSA programs, they enable community members to collectively support local farmers, which is crucial for the local economy and the economy of society as a whole. And we need to support local farmers. We need to support local farmers because they are the ones that are giving us access to fresh, affordable produce. And if we support them, this produce becomes even more affordable because we're dealing with this produce at a larger scale. And you've got initiatives like mobile markets, which bring fresh food directly to underserved neighborhoods, offering educational resources and cooking demonstrations alongside produce sales. And this model helps meet immediate food needs while fostering long-term knowledge about healthy eating. I am on the board of a charity that is based in Melbourne called Project Us, and we make sure that we supply over a ton of food on a weekly basis. But the catch is that it has to be whole food. There's nothing processed. So a big shout out to Project Us and Hijaz for allowing us to do that, partake in this very, very important program. Engaging families in food education is also crucial for creating a culture of health and well-being, because knowledge about nutrition and cooking together is how we can foster intergenerational learning, where parents and children can collaborate. They can work together in the kitchen preparing these meals, sharing recipes, and talking about the importance of healthy eating. We had a recent seminar at the school that I consult for, Unity Grammar, where parents came in and we partook in cooking certain meals and dishes together that are good for you, whilst we were educating them about the benefits of each ingredient and the dish as a whole. It was a remarkable, remarkable night. I urge not just schools to partake in this for bonding and learning, but also corporates or the corporate entities as well, preparing meals together. Then you as a family, as an entity, you can discuss the ingredients, the sourcing, the benefits of the whole foods. And when you're talking about things, that's how we learn the best. And it becomes concrete memory retention, learning about different ingredients, cuisines, and having an openness to trying new flavors is the best way to address this issue at a grassroots level. You can have activities that involve children helping with age appropriate tasks, such as washing the vegetables if they can't do the more complex tasks, washing the vegetables, measuring ingredients, or even assembling the dishes. And when you apply this inclusion, it empowers children and makes them feel invested in the cooking process, and they are more likely to develop a relationship with healthy food and more likely to try things that, otherwise they would be scared to try or not willing to try. So providing these resources from the parents and the nutrition information and the cooking skills is how we enhance what we call family food education. So the school, the community center, the healthcare provider, together they can be toolkits that include recipes. They can be the source where we get budget-friendly shopping lists, because that's often a complaint of recent times, and time-saving meal prep strategies in an era where everybody's just too busy to do it themselves. So, it's always Uber. These online platforms like webinars, workshops, this podcast, for instance, and covering topics such as meal planning for busy lifestyles, healthy snacks, the importance of getting children involved in food choices. This is the start of how we address these problems and these issues, physiological, cognitive, at a grassroots level. And I always emphasize, and I'll emphasize again, the mindful eating practices. Teaching families about mindful eating is how we can create a healthier relationship with food as a family. We have to encourage families to engage in conversations around meals whilst they're eating their food, acknowledging the flavors, the textures, and just being in a state of gratitude. This practice is how you promote gratitude for the food that is on their plates. This also encourages portion control and reduces the risk of overeating. When you're in a state of gratitude and grateful for the food that is before you, you are less likely to overeat and eating heedlessly when you're conscious and in a state of gratitude. And it also affects the way you digest food. It prevents gastrointestinal distress, as research shows. So it is imperative that we adapt to these new challenges that we are facing as a society as a whole. We have to see food as an opportunity. And there are a few promising trends and visions for the future of food education. And one of them is technology-enhanced learning. And as technology becomes an integral part of our day-to-day life, and you've got educational platforms that are positive, we can look at these as digital tools to make education more engaging and more accessible. You've got virtual cooking classes, nutrition apps, interactive online resources, webinars that can democratize food education, allowing individuals from all backgrounds to learn at their own pace. Integration of food systems, thinking understandably the complexity of food in food education, can provide a more holistic view of the relationship between our food choices, health, and the environment. As we prepare for the future, integrating food systems, thinking into educational curriculums, can help individuals understand the journey of food, from production and processing to distribution, consumption, and waste. And this approach emphasizes the interconnections among agriculture, nutrition, health, and environmental sustainability. For instance, by examining local food systems, students can learn about food production practices, because when you learn about the practice, you're more likely to appreciate what you are consuming and what's on your plate. And highlighting the importance of supporting local farmers and the impact of their food choices on a global scale and on global food security and environmental degradation, this will allow the child to grow up with a different relationship, a positive relationship with food. We have to understand the systems to be able to feel a sense of responsibility, because as I mentioned earlier, نستخلفكم في الأرض, as it's mentioned in the Quran, we are stewards of the earth and we have to look after the earth. And part of that process is looking after how we source our food in a sustainable way to look after the community and then the planet as a whole. We also must be advocates for policy changes. We have to advocate for food education policies at a local level, at a state level, at a national level, in order to pave the way for systemic changes in how we approach food and nutrition. We have to engage with policymakers to develop and fund programs that prioritize food education in schools, community organizations, and healthcare settings, because that's how we can significantly improve access to resources, but also make people hold these large food giants accountable. They're allowed to mask the way that they tell us about how much sugar there is in food, how many preservatives there are in food. How many people know that the order of food mentioned in the ingredients list is from most abundant to least abundant? Not many of us know this. Not many people know that if the first ingredient is palm oil, that essentially what you are consuming is palm oil. And these food giants are allowed to get away with too much. They can label something as maltodextrin, so essentially hiding the fact that it's sugar. And how is that going to lead to a better public health outcome? It's impossible. We need to have stricter rules surrounding how companies are allowed to label their products. And food education should also emphasize practical skills, cooking skills, budgeting techniques, because a lot of people complain about how they can't afford to eat healthy, when a nutritious meal can be made on the lowest of budgets. But it's a skill. It's a skill that is essential for navigating grocery store shopping, understanding how to select quality ingredients, and maximizing the shelf life of the products that you are purchasing. I think I will do a video soon on a grocery run and how to navigate the grocery aisles. And we have to incorporate these lessons to the point where we are meal prepping in a way that we are preserving our food and not wasting food, and using whole foods in a way that is budget friendly and also healthy. And to do this, especially as families get larger, people complain about how expensive it is, but if we address this or educate people how to shop in an economically viable way, we can allow families to comfortably, without anxiety, address this issue and address it together. Do the grocery shopping together. Educate the family as a whole to take part in the process. Have workshops that bring together even parents, children, grandparents, and facilitate knowledge and transfer knowledge, not just methods, but also the recipes and the nutritional wisdom that goes behind some of these dishes. And these intergenerational programs can foster connections and can ensure that knowledge of healthy eating is passed down and it doesn't die with us. As I say, knowledge hoarded is futile, only shared when it does become wisdom. And then you create a cultural legacy of healthiness and valuing contributions of the older generations in the kitchen and preserving historical culinary cultural practices for the generations to come, while introducing them to modern nutritional science, merging the two and bridging the gap between the generations. The significance of community in food education is massive. Community involvement is essential in promoting effective food education, because strong community networks can drive initiatives that educate and empower individuals to take control over their food choices. And communities can play a pivotal role in this process. You can have local organizations and collaborations such as non-for-profits, youth programs, even faith-based groups, which can strengthen food education initiatives. And these organizations can pull together resources and reach a wider audience and implement programs that are tailored to the needs of their specific communities. For example, you can have a local non-for-profit develop an outreach program that provides nutrition education in underserved neighborhoods, while youth organizations can host cooking classes, for example, that teach healthy recipes to children, to adolescents, and initiatives that encourage members to share healthy recipes or cook together. This is how we can foster engagement and excitement around food and food education, because to treat the health issues that we are suffering from today and to address the cause, not the symptoms, it starts with education. It doesn't start with what is the next food ideology or food fad that I'm going to follow. The other thing that we can focus on is food-related events and workshops. If we host community events that focus on food education, not just selling the next food item, because there are food expos, but how much of that food expo is based around education, and how can it enhance the awareness and participation of individuals and families? For instance, farmers markets can serve as a great educational platform where local produce is highlighted and cooking demonstrations are offered, rather than just having the agenda or the objective of selling the next item. So as a community, we must encourage people to bring dishes made from seasonal or local ingredients and promote the idea of community and the sharing of knowledge about nutrition and food traditions. And these are the perfect platforms for it. We should be able to use these platforms to raise awareness. And like I said, to address this issue at a grassroots level, we have to get the neighborhood involved. And the best way to do that is to take advantage of festivals, to take advantage of farmers markets, cultural events, and then we can explore and appreciate diverse food landscapes, but also use these platforms to educate communities and educate the masses. The community itself can develop resources that are simple to understand and easy to implement. For example, if you create visual guidelines or guides for shopping on a budget or meal prepping that is easy and how to make healthy meals, this will empower individuals with the knowledge to make healthier choices. And you can have community bulletin boards, newsletters, online groups, and these platforms, these are some platforms that we can use for sharing recipes from different cultures, cooking tips, nutrition workshops, and encourage engagement across all ages. And this will allow people to learn from each other because everyone has something different to offer. Often when I'm conducting a seminar, there are individuals that don't like to ask questions. They like to attend and they'll wait for the next person to ask a question. But they may ask a question that you may have not thought of, but you will benefit from the answer. And that's the importance of that particular setting, the seminar setting or the group setting where you have parents. The seminar that I did recently for a functional gym, you had families come with the children and learning collectively. And that is how we are able to identify and dismantle the obstacles to access education. We can create an environment that doesn't just support healthy eating, but fosters a sense of belonging and partnership. And if you do this as a family unit, it tends to have a longer lasting, more sustainable effect, different to a household where mum's on a certain eating ideology or eating plan, dad's on a different plan, the kids are on a different plan. Everyone is eating separately, whereas the family unit tends to fall apart and it's toxic. It's very, very toxic. The mealtime has to be preserved. It is something that has been preserved since the beginning of time. Eating together as a family is so important. Putting the phone down, eating together as a family, discussing things of significance is very, very important. And a deep exploration of food education shows us that it is clear that we must improve food literacy. It's essential for our health. It's essential for our well-being. It's essential for sustainability of communities because food education empowers individuals to make informed choices. It empowers the family unit. It empowers the mother, the father, when they're doing their grocery shopping to make informed choices and develop a positive relationship with food and help us understand the broader implications of the decisions that we make when every time we're deciding on what we are bringing into the food or into the pantry or into the fridge. So we need to take actionable steps to promote food education in the family unit, in the community, in the schools. And improving food literacy is not the responsibility of any single group. It's not the responsibility of just the school, just the workplace. It's a collective effort that involves parents, it involves educators, it involves healthcare providers, it involves local organizations, and it also involves policymakers. So encourage food education in your community. I urge each of you to take action in your community Take action in your home. Become an advocate for food education. Speak to local school boards about integrating food education into the curricula. Ask them to bring a speaker, whether it be myself or anyone else that's well versed in education. Tell them that I want to bring in somebody who's an expert in the field to talk to the parents, to talk to the students and the learners, to talk to every cohort at every level, and provide resources that support cooking classes, nutrition workshops, gardening programs. Encourage local policymakers to fund these initiatives that are aimed at promoting better food and better access to education. Get involved with local organizations that offer cooking classes, nutrition workshops, nutrition education, even just classes and workshops on how to read labels are so important. I've done that alone, and they are very time consuming because of the lack of education and food literacy. Consider volunteering to help spread the word, because a little bit of involvement can inspire others to learn and engage. But it all starts within the home environment. We have to focus on within the home environment to be about learning and food literacy. We have to discuss nutrition, discuss cooking with the family, encourage cooking together, get everybody involved, try new recipes, especially those that are nutritious, but also that don't deviate from your culture. We have to reflect on the dishes from our culture and still use them so that they don't disappear. These are all opportunities to educate and engage in conversations about the importance of eating. And there's no reason why we cannot utilize technology to our advantage, to our benefit. We can explore online resources on our own and as a family unit through apps, videos on YouTube, nutrition videos, cooking, podcasts such as this. And this can enhance your understanding and bring new skills to each individual in the family, and then that'll resonate into the kitchen, and that'll also have a ripple effect on what you share and learn with others, even over a meal that isn't even had at home. When you're sitting down over a meal in a restaurant, you could be sharing information that is beneficial to everybody at the table. And it's important to not allow our cultural dishes to be diluted, and that's what's happening. With time, traditional dishes are being diluted. We are too obsessed with macros and carbs and fats and things like that, to the point where we look at food from a quantitative perspective, not from a qualitative perspective. And food is about quality, not quantity. If you are eating a small amount of whole food, organic produce that is free of pesticides and preservatives, it has a far greater significance or a value to your physiological and cognitive well-being than you eating, for instance, copious large amounts of food that is packed with preservatives and packed with pesticides. Even we learned recently, and we don't use with our meal company, we don't even use pre-cut vegetables for that reason. It's because even pre-cut vegetables, not frozen veg, pre-cut vegetables are sprayed with chemicals. Pre-cut vegetables covered in sulfites and chlorine, even chlorine. Chlorine is used in pre-cut vegetables. When you cut a vegetable in half, when you cut a piece of celery in half, it will go brown around the point where you cut it very, very quickly. Why does that not happen with pre-cut vegetables that you buy in a bag? We're thinking that this is fresh vegetables, this is fresh produce, so it is the better option. I don't even allow pre-cut vegetables into my kitchen that we use with my meal company, because of the preservatives and the chemicals that are used to preserve this produce that is allegedly fresh when it is far from that. So if you intertwine all of these things, then you're able to address the society as a whole, fostering education, creating a healthier future, not just for ourselves, but for our family, for our communities, and for the generations to come. Because if we're not doing it, why will the generation that is to come have healthy eating habits if we don't? So food education is an ongoing thing, but it starts with each and every one of us committing to learning, sharing, and advocating for better food practices. We have to cultivate a food environment that prioritizes knowledge, inclusivity, and sustainability, because every crisis is a crisis of knowledge. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Diet Doctor podcast. Together, let's continue to champion informed choices, engage in meaningful conversations about nutrition, and work towards a collective vision of health, grounded in food education. Until next time, embrace the power of learning about your food and celebrate the joy of nourishing your body, nourishing your mind, and nourishing spirit through healthy eating practices. And then together, we can make a difference, one meal, one conversation, and one action at a time. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.